Welcome to the very first YouTube edition of Shaun's Reviews. I've been keeping a blog for a number of years doing movie reviews, and I've decided I'm going to move off the written page and into the video and audio world. Hello, my name is Shaun. My very first episode, since I'm doing this at the start of a new year, is going to be about the 2018 Oscar nominations. Those came out recently, and I have quite a few thoughts on those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the nominees list and give you my predictions on what I think will win. And I'm also going to let you know what I think should have been nominated if I feel differently about the nominations, and tell you what I think should win from those lists of nominations. I'm only going to do that second part for more major awards. I'm not going to worry about things like costuming and such. And also, while I'm going to give predictions for things such as short animated film, documentaries and such, I did not see the vast majority of those, so they're going to be very uninformed opinions, and you'll see what I mean when I get there. So let's start right off the bat with production design. The nominees this year are Beauty and the Beast, Blade Runner 2049, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, and The Shape of Water. Now, production design is not an area where I'm going to give my own nominees. I'm just going to stick with what the Academy gave. And actually, I think they chose a very good list this year. My prediction for what is going to win will be Beauty and the Beast. The reason I picked that is I think they want to give it just some sort of credit for its visuals, and this is the one and only category in which it deserves a nomination. So, next we will move on to costume design. Again, we have Beauty and the Beast. We have Darkest Hour, Phantom Thread, The Shape of Water, and Victoria and Abdul. And in this case, I'm going with the Phantom Thread, because if a film about the fashion industry can't win Best Costume Design, then what in the hell is it doing? But honestly, it did have some of the best costumes of the year. I was actually blown away by that, and that's not a category that I normally even pay attention to, so go with Phantom Thread for our costume design winner. Next, we have sound editing. Those nominees are Baby Driver, Blade Runner 2049, Dunkirk, The Shape of Water, and Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now, sound editing is, how to put it, is about putting the sound, after all the sounds have been created, it's about matching it up with the final product of the film. And no film has done that better this year, and possibly in most years, than Baby Driver did, since it is essentially a near 2-hour-long music video. So look to Baby Driver to win the sound editing award. Then we have sound mixing. Now this is a little different. Sound mixing is the actual creation of those sounds. For that we have Baby Driver, Blade Runner 2049, Dunkirk, The Shape of Water, and Star Wars The Last Jedi. And for this, I'm going with Star Wars The Last Jedi. Star Wars has always been wonderful with sound. In fact, I would go as far as to say Star Wars does a better job with sound than it does with visuals when you take score and sound effects into account. So it looks this year to be no different. We're going to have Star Wars The Last Jedi win the sound mixing award. Next we have short film animated. I'm going to go on record saying I have not seen a single one of these. The nominees are Dear Basketball, Garden Party, Lou, Negative Space, and Revolting Rhymes. And for the winner, I'm going with Garden Party. Why? Because it's the only one I'd heard of before I made this list. So if there's some buzz about it, then I'll go with the fact that, go with the theory that it might win. Next we have short film live action. For that we have DeKalb Elementary, The 11 O'Clock, My Nephew Emmett, The Silent Child, and Watu wrote / All of Us. This one again, I'm just guessing, and I'm going to go with DeKalb Elementary because the Academy likes films about children. All right. Next, I'm going to go to makeup and hairstyling. For that, we only have 3 nominees. Those are Darkest Hour, Victoria and Abdul, and Wonder. Victoria and Abdul, I'm going to take out immediately because it was very good makeup, but it was just standard makeup. Darkest Hour and Wonder both had to transform their main actor into an entirely different person, and for that reason I'm going with Darkest Hour for the winner for makeup and hairstyling, since it had to transform that person into a specific person, in this case William Dafoe into Winston Churchill, and I think that is going to win based on the difficulty. Okay, next we have foreign language film. I have seen none of these again, although I do have to wonder why Raw was not nominated. It's perhaps because it was a 2016 film, and it's also possible that France didn't even put it forward for a nomination. Anyway, moving on to the list, we have A Fantastic Woman from Chile, The Insult from Lebanon, Loveless from Russia, On Body and Soul from Hungary, and The Square from Sweden. And for this one, I'm basing my prediction on exactly the same reason I was doing my short animated film, in that the only one I'd heard of before was The Square. So I'm going with that one for our winner. For short documentary, the nominees are Edith and Eddie, Heaven is a Traffic Jam on the 405, Heroine, a double meaning title, it's spelled as both heroin the drug and a heroine as in a female protagonist, Knife Skills, and Traffic Stop. This one I really had nothing to base my prediction on, so I'm going to go with the cleverest title and pick Heroine. We have standard documentary. The nominees are Abacus, Small Enough to Jail, Faces Places, Icarus, Last Man in Aleppo, and Strong Island. And while I have not seen these, in this case I actually do have a somewhat educated opinion on what is going to win, and that is Faces Places. I have heard a number of other critics talk about this film, some going as far as to say it's their favorite movie of the year in total. I mean, not just favorite documentary, just favorite movie, period. And I also know that the woman who made Faces Places has been doing documentaries for a very, very long time. She is well esteemed, but she has never won the Academy Award for Best Documentary. So taking all that into account, my prediction is that Faces Places is going to win the Academy Award for Best Documentary. The last category in which I am not going to change the Academy's opinion at all is Music Original Song. For that, we have Mighty River from Mudbound, Mystery of Love from Call Me By Your Name, Remember Me from Coco, Stand Up for Something from Marshall, and This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. And in this one, I'm going for This Is Me from The Greatest Showman, because even though this was an incredibly mediocre movie in most respects, people seem to want to like this movie a lot. I've heard talk about other awards, and as you know, the Golden Globes gave it several nominations. So for that matter, I think they're just going to, and the fact that it's a musical, they're just going to throw it a bone, and This Is Me will be the Best Song Academy Award winner. Now, we're going to move on to categories in which I have an opinion, and a different opinion than the Academy's. We'll begin with Best Cinematography. The Academy is nominating Blade Runner 2049, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Mudbound, and The Shape of Water. Blade Runner 2049 the cinematography was directed by Roger Deakins, not Richard, Roger Deakins. Roger Deakins has been around for a very long time. He's done the cinematography direction for a great many films, which all of you have seen something. If you've seen a Coen Brothers film, you've almost certainly seen Roger Deakins' cinematography, and he's done way more than just the Coen Brothers. This is actually his 15th Academy Award nomination, a pretty staggering number for any person in any category, and he has never won the Academy Award. So my prediction is this is finally going to be his year, and Roger Deakins is going to win for Blade Runner 2049 in one of the toughest years to call. Every single one of these films had fantastic cinematography, and they didn't even put Phantom Thread on the list, which also is a film that could make sewing exciting due to the strength of its visuals, which I mean, this was quite the year for cinematography. The only other category which I think was harder to call was, well, we'll get to that. I'll let you know. Now, you're going to see how much of a year I thought it was for cinematography when you see how different my nominees are. I also put Blade Runner 2049 in my list of nominations, and I also put Dunkirk and The Shape of Water. However, I took off Darkest Hour and Mudbound and instead went with The Florida Project and It Comes at Night. It Comes at Night is a little different than the others. They're all nominated for a different reason. The Florida Project made fantastic use of its landscape to tell its story. The stretch of highway near Disney World becomes a character all of its own and entirely due to the cinematography. Dunkirk, if you've seen the film, almost goes without saying. It's one of the best shot war movies I've ever seen, particularly the aerial shots are staggering. It's the most artistic I've ever seen World War II shot. The Shape of Water, again, an amazingly shot movie, really brings the fairy tale to life. Blade Runner 2049 was very much for the same reason as Shape of Water, although in this case it's a science fiction world instead of a fairy tale, but still very much bringing a fantasy to life in a very artistic manner. And finally, though, It Comes at Night was such a low-budget film, so starkly made that essentially all you had for the vast majority of the film were a couple wooden boarded up rooms, a hallway, and a red door. And that movie managed to wring out so much emotion from you just through the way it was shot. You were terrified from beginning to end. You made I've lost a word. But just through the strength of its cinematography, it wrung out this entire series of very strong emotions from you. It may not have the art that the other nominees did, but what it did have was just it was a remarkable demonstration of how the way a film is shot can encompass the entire mood of what a film is trying to accomplish. However, that being said, I am still giving the award to Blade Runner 2049. I think all 5 of these films are wonderfully shot, are absolutely gorgeous, and honestly, I'm going with the fact that Roger Deakins has been nominated 15 times and never won before as kind of my tiebreak. Because as far as I'm concerned, all 5 of these movies are just as deserving of the award. But while the films are just as deserving, Roger Deakins is slightly more deserving. So I'm going with Roger Deakins for Blade Runner 2049 for my winner as well. Now we move on to Music Original Score. The Academy is nominating Dunkirk, Phantom Thread, The Shape of Water, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I am predicting Dunkirk as the Academy Award winner, due both to the fact that the Academy likes Hans Zimmer quite a bit and he composed the score, but also because it was very original in the way it used a stopwatch as one of its major musical components and really added a feel of urgency and added quite a bit to the mood of the film overall with its very kind of march-like style. It really felt like a war film, but that stopwatch just gave it just enough of an air of creativity that I think that's going to push it over the top and give Dunkirk the win from the Academy. I only changed one of these. I also went with Phantom Thread, Dunkirk, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, but I took off The Shape of Water and instead put in Blade Runner 2049. Just a little bit of trivia on Star Wars The Last Jedi. This is Roger Deakins. This was his 15th nomination. This is John Williams' 50th, 5-0, his 50th Academy Award nomination. That's just a remarkable achievement. And if we thought this was going to be his last, I would say he was almost certainly going to win the award and deserve the award this year. But we know that he's going to be scoring at least the next major Star Wars film. He's already agreed to it. So I think he's a shoo-in to win that one. So I'm making a prediction for 3 years from now that he is going to, or sorry, 2 years from now, that he will win an Academy Award then. But this year, no. The Academy is going to give it to Hans Zimmer in Dunkirk, and I give it to Carter Burwell for his score of 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which really captured such a remarkable modern Western feel. It sort of has an Old West ambiance, but with a modern country Western sort of aesthetic. It's a really familiar but also creative at the same time score. I absolutely loved it. I will listen to it all the time without the movie even playing. So 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is my winner for music original score. Moving on to visual effects, the Academy nominated Blade Runner 2049, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Kong Skull Island, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and War for the Planet of the Apes. They are going to give this award to War for the Planet of the Apes. It's just such an astounding achievement. The entire film, all your major actors are essentially CGI with the exception of Woody Harrelson and the little girl whose name, unfortunately, I'm not thinking of right now. Aside from that, you have a CGI cast. It's essentially an animated film, but in the real world. And this is the 3rd film in that series, which, as they went on, had to use more and more CGI effects. So I think War for the Planet of the Apes is going to win due to the quality and the amount, and also as sort of a final hurrah for the series. As far as my nominees, I took out Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and added Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets. Other than that, my nominees are all the same. And my winner is actually the same as my prediction. I also say War for the Planet of the Apes should win. But I felt Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets deserves at least some recognition because, well, the film may have been a bit busy with its visual effects at times. It was still stunning and incredibly visually creative and colorful, vibrant, fun to watch. So I think the fact that the movie didn't do well as the box office is the only reason the Academy didn't nominate it. I think Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets deserves a mention, deserves a nomination, but War for the Planet of the Apes deserves the actual award. Moving on to film editing, the Academy is nominating Baby Driver, Dunkirk, I, Tonya, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I believe that Dunkirk is going to win this award. And the reason I think that is because it is so visually gorgeous and staggering, but they want to give the cinematography award to Roger Deakins. They're going to have to award its visuals somehow, and here's how. They're going to give it the Film Editing Award, which, in all honesty, I'm happy with it getting it. Deserves it. In fact, that is also my winner. The only change I made was I removed 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri from the list and added Logan. Other than that, my nominees are exactly the same, and the winner is exactly the same as my prediction. So Dunkirk and Lee Smith is the editor's name for film editing. Now we move on to Best Supporting Actress. And I said earlier there was only one category other than cinematography that was so close, and that would be both the supporting actress and actress categories for me. The women's performances in movies this year was out of this world. Sorry, men, you could not keep up this year. The ladies blew you away, which I think is a wonderful thing because that means there are better women's parts out there. We need to be seeing more of that, and I hope this is a trend that continues. So, first, for supporting actress, the Academy nominated Mary J. Blige for Mudbound, Allison Janney for I, Tonya, Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread, Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, and Octavia Spencer for The Shape of Water. I think they're going to choose Allison Janney for I, Tonya. Allison Janney is just the person everybody seems to want to love right now. We have everyone going out of their way to just say how much they love Allison Janney, which is great. I also love Allison Janney. I want to see her get more recognition. And I think this is just her year. She already won the Golden Globe. I think she's going to win the Academy Award as well. However, I don't think she deserves it. My lineup on this is quite a bit different. My lineup is Daphne Keane for Logan, Holly Hunter for The Big Sick, Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, Allison Janney for I, Tonya, and Mary J. Blige for Mudbound. And my winner is Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird. Both Allison Janney and Laurie Metcalf played hard-to-love mothers, I guess is the way I would put it. Allison Janney's was far more cruel than Laurie Metcalf's was, but Laurie Metcalf's was still a bit of a handful. But what I loved is that she was also a much more real character. Allison Janney, as wonderful as she was, could delve into the realm of generalization and stereotype from time to time, while Laurie Metcalf, the entire film, was a fully realized, entirely three-dimensional, realistic character. And actually, her performance allowed me to understand the mother-daughter relationship in a way that I'm not sure any piece of fiction ever had before. I'm not saying no other piece of fiction ever added to my understanding of that, but the play between Saoirse Ronan and Laurie Metcalf in Lady Bird was astounding, and I really feel I get the mother-daughter relationship in a way, that I have never been able to grasp before Lady Bird, and thus Laurie Metcalf deserves the award for Best Supporting Actress. Now, for Best Supporting Actor, we have Willem Dafoe for The Florida Project, Woody Harrelson for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World, and Sam Rockwell for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I think the Academy is going to go with Willem Dafoe. For one, I think the Academy wants to give him an award. He doesn't win nearly as often as he should. I'm not sure he has won before, but I won't go on record as saying that because I did not do my research on this specific in this specific area for this time around. But Willem Dafoe is one of our most celebrated actors, and he's going to win the award. One, for that reason, and two, because the scene, I don't want to give any spoilers, there's a scene in The Florida Project that focuses entirely on him, and if it does not make you emotional on several different levels, from cheering to crying to shuddering, then you're just plain not a human being. You're a sociopath if this scene does not affect you. That being said, my list, again, is quite different. I am putting on my list Bradley Whitford for Get Out, Patrick Stewart for Logan, Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water, Willem Dafoe for The Florida Project, and Sam Rockwell for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And my winner is Sam Rockwell. He's another actor who is long overdue for this award, and I just felt that the way he portrayed this character in this film was brilliant. He had such an incredible arc. A lot of people are complaining that he did not deserve the arc. And I understand that complaint, and honestly, I think that's the reason why the Academy is not going to give it to him. They're going to hear that, and it's going to sway some people's opinions. I don't mind it, though. I look at it as another realistic view of life. Sometimes life is just sloppy. He didn't earn a redemption, but he found it anyway. And in a way, that's almost harder to act than actually earning it. His was a performance that showed that people are more complex than just good guy, bad guy, black or white. Sometimes life is sloppy, and he made sense out of that and made a real character out of it, and I really appreciated that. So yeah, I give my award to Sam Rockwell. Alrighty, now we're getting there. Let's move on to Best Animated Film. This was an interesting category for me. This has been a horrible year for animation. It's been a wonderful year in every other way, but animated films, for some reason this year, you'll see when I get to my list. The Academy nominated The Boss Baby, The Breadwinner, Coco, Ferdinand, and Loving Vincent. And I think the award is going to Coco. There's really no other film they can give it to. Loving Vincent possibly as an outside chance just because the animation was all hand-painted, which is a spectacular piece of work. I mean, to have every single frame in your animated movie a piece of hand-painted art is pretty spectacular. However, the plot was very dull, very mundane, nothing at all to you'll even remember, possibly hours after you've seen it. Slight exaggeration, but it really was an incredibly mundane film, aside from the fact that it was hand-painted. So Coco is really your only choice for Best Animated Feature. My list consists of two movies, the Lego Batman movie and Coco. And I'm giving the award to Coco. I do not understand, however, how the Lego Batman movie could not have been nominated by the Academy. The Academy just must have something against Lego movies. Perhaps it's the fact that they're a company and they don't want to give an award to a company. I don't know. But the Lego movie was very obviously the best animated movie of 2014. We're still talking about it to this day. And while the Lego Batman movie wasn't up to the quality of the original Lego movie, it was still the second best animated movie we had all year by a good margin. So the fact that it wasn't even nominated tells me that if the Lego movies continue, we're never going to see them nominated. The Academy just simply does not want to give them an award or even recognition. Now we'll move on to writing. Best Adapted Screenplay, according to the Academy, are Call Me By Your Name, The Disaster Artist, Logan, Molly's Game, and Mudbound. This one was a rough call for me between two, Molly's Game being one of them. The one I think they're going to give the award to is Call Me By Your Name. I think they're really going to... Call Me By Your Name has a lot that appeals to the Academy. Granted, so does Molly's Game, but I think Call Me By Your Name gets the edge just with its very witty characters, with their very intellectual dialogue, and the fact that it writes about a young love with a homosexual relationship where the young love is more the focus than the fact that the characters are gay. I think the Academy is really going to like that. I really like that. I think it's about damn time they looked at a homosexual romance as just a normal romance and not making the fact that it's a gay romance the focus of the film. I think the Academy is going to agree with me on that part and give Call Me By Your Name the award. I, however, am not going to give it to Call Me By Your Name. My list is Logan, The Disaster Artist, Call Me By Your Name, Molly's Game, and Mudbound. So exactly the same. I didn't change any of the nominees, but I'm going with Logan as the winner. I don't think I've seen such a well-written comic book movie in my entire life. It transcends the genre by becoming a Western, a story about old age, a story about family, a story about hope, about decay. I mean, it really is a film about life's journey from childhood to death. And that's a lot to cover in a superhero film, and it did it spectacularly. Logan, I think, is the best superhero film ever created. And So obviously I think it deserves some sort of award, and I think the writing was the best part of Logan, so therefore I'm giving it the nod for Best Adapted Screenplay. Best Original Screenplay, the Academy nominees are The Big Sick, Get Out, Lady Bird, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. This one is going to go to Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri from the Academy. Again, I think they're just going to like the sharper dialogue than the other films had, the more snappy nature, and I think they will, the themes, with the possible exception of Get Out, are much stronger in Three Billboards than in the other films. The others have very personal themes, while Three Billboards is very all-encompassing. It's a look at tragedy, a look at how our personal tragedies can spread and affect others and bring tragedies to them, and how the way that each of us deals with it is almost as much a spreading cancer as the tragedies themselves, or sometimes just the opposite, that it can be a cure for the cancer. And it really all depends on our reaction to how we deal with our own personal tragedies. And I think that's a wonderful message, and I think the Academy will agree. My nominees for Best Original Screenplay are Get Out, Colossal, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Wind River, and Professor Marston and the Wonder Women. So my list is quite a bit different. The only similarities are Get Out and Three Billboards. The winner, however, I'm going to say is the same. I'm also giving the award to Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, same as my prediction for the Academy. We'll move on to Best Actor. The Academy is nominating Timothée Chalamet from Call Me By Your Name, Daniel Day-Lewis from Phantom Thread, Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out, Gary Oldman from Darkest Hour, and Denzel Washington from Roman J. Israel, Esquire. And that last nomination is the first one, no, not the first one outside of the animated category, which the entire thing was just screwy. But the first one outside the animated category that really puzzles me. I thought Denzel Washington's performance was horrible. Well, horrible's exaggerating, but horrible for Denzel Washington. He normally gives us such incredible performances, and this one was very ham-fisted, very over the top, very almost stereotypical. I didn't like his performance in this one at all, so I don't understand how he got a nomination. So obviously, he won't be on my list. I think the Academy is going to give the award to Gary Oldman, just because he deserves it. He deserves an Academy Award. This is going to be kind of like a Lifetime Achievement Award for Gary Oldman, and when they give him this statue, I think it's almost a given. My list is Jason Sudeikis for Colossal. He was a wonderful bad guy, probably the best villain of the year. Andy Serkis for War for the Planet of the Apes. Controversial choice, I know, because he was CGI through the whole thing. He didn't even appear on screen. Still, it was his voice. He did all the motion capture. It was still his voice, his movement, so I think it qualifies. Robert Pattinson for Good Time, James Franco for The Disaster Artist, and Gary Oldman for Darkest Hour. So yes, the only one I have in common with the Academy is Gary Oldman. And I am giving Gary Oldman the nod myself as well. I had a lot of problems with Darkest Hour. His performance was not one of those problems. He knocked it out of the park with his portrayal of Winston Churchill. I really bought every single minute of it. Best Actress. The Academy is nominating Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water, Frances McDormand for Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird, and Meryl Streep for The Post. And I think they're going to give this one to Frances McDormand. It's another Lifetime Achievement Award, but on top of that, I think she deserves it. Yeah. These were 5 very, very close performances to choose between, but I think Frances McDormand just gets a little bit of an edge in the fact that her performance is a little more subtle than the others. She had to play an angry woman the whole way through, and she was. The exterior was constantly angry, but through the entire thing, she had to show grief. She had to show confusion. She had to show humor. She had to, she always had to have an emotion underneath her anger, and she pulled it off from beginning to end, and that makes it one hell of a remarkable performance. So Frances McDormand will get the award, just like she did the Golden Globe. My nominees are slightly different. I'm putting up Rebecca Hall for Professor Marston and the Wonder Women, Frances McDormand for Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water, and Michelle Williams for All the Money in the World. I took out Christopher Plummer from All the Money in the World. I don't think he deserved the nomination, but I think Michelle Williams does. Hers is the great performance in that film. However, my personal choice is Frances McDormand, just like I think the Academy will give to her. So in this case, my prediction and my choice are both the same. Frances McDormand was wonderful in Three Billboards. For Best Director, we have Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, Jordan Peele for Get Out, Greta Gerwig for Lady Bird, Paul Thomas Anderson for The Phantom Thread, Guillermo del Toro for The Shape of Water, and I think they're going to give the award to Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk. He's been around a long time, and believe it or not, this is his very first Academy Award nomination for Best Director. As a matter of fact, this is the first nomination for everybody on this list except for Paul Thomas Anderson. Believe Christopher Nolan, Jordan Peele, Greta Gerwig, and Guillermo del Toro, this is their very first Oscar nomination for all four of them. But I think Christopher Nolan is the one that the Academy will feel deserves the award the most due to past films. As far as actual talent, actual execution on these films, they're very close, too close to call. I think I'd almost go with Guillermo del Toro on this one, but I think the Academy is going to give it to Christopher Nolan as a sort of another lifetime achievement, a makeup award in this case. My list is a little different. I'm also putting Guillermo del Toro for The Shape of Water on my list, and Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk. However, the others I'm putting on my list are Jerry Mangold for Logan, Denis Villeneuve for Blade Runner 2049, and Craig Gillespie for I, Tonya. My winner is Denis Villeneuve for Blade Runner 2049. That movie was spectacular in really every fashion. The visuals really stand out. Both the visual effects and the cinematography are absolutely top-notch. But the acting was spectacular. The script was spectacular. The editing was spectacular. The music was spectacular. Every single edit, every single frame was beautiful in that movie. Plus, it managed to juggle a lot of different themes dealing with what it means to be human. Very high concept themes combined with science fiction entertainment, and he pulled it off like a dream. The original Blade Runner is certainly a cult classic, arguably a masterpiece, and he actually managed to make a film better than it was. So Blade Runner 2049, and Denis Villeneuve gets my award for Best Director. Now we come to Best Picture. The Academy only used 9 of their nominations, despite this being one of the best years for films in recent memory. Their nominees were Call Me By Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. You may have noticed in my predictions that while The Shape of Water has been nominated 13 times, I have not yet given it a win. I don't think the Academy is going to give it any win except for this one. The Shape of Water is going to win Best Picture. I'm going with that just the fact that it has 13 nominations, and I think it's going to have to use a lot of those nominations as also ran awards to recognize films, to recognize careers, to make up for awards and such. But The Shape of Water is going to win Best Picture because obviously the Academy loves it and obviously they want to recognize it with something big. This is that something big. My list for Best Picture, I'm using all 10 nominations, unlike the Academy. I am nominating Get Out, Logan, Blade Runner 2049, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Lady Bird, The Shape of Water, Call Me By Your Name, I, Tonya, The Post, and Phantom Thread. And for all the reasons I said under Best Director, Blade Runner 2049 is my winner for Best Film of the Year. It was fantastic. Knocked my socks off. I mean, they did nothing wrong in that film. Now, every single one of the films I mentioned in my Best Picture list could win Best Picture in any other year. They're all fantastic films. This was such a spectacular year for film. Blade Runner just barely edges them out, but edge them out it does. Now I'm going to go with two more awards that are my personal awards, something the Academy doesn't recognize. The first, although I think at least one of these they should, and this is this one. And the first is a category that I thought was excellent this year, and it's people that don't normally get recognition, and that is child performances. For people who are under the age of 18 that gave a spectacular performance, this year I think the people who deserve some credit for Best Child Performance are Sophia Lillis from It, she played Beverly, Brooklyn Prince in The Florida Project, let's see, Tabitha Elena Bateman from Annabelle Creation, Farrah McKenzie from Logan Lucky, and Daphne Keane from Logan. And in case I'm giving this to Daphne Keane for Logan, in case you didn't notice that I put her also in my Best Supporting Actress category. Yes, I put a 10-year-old in my Best Supporting Actress category, and her performance was amazing. She had to be fierce. She had to be cute at times. She had to be vulnerable. She pulled it all off. For the first 3/4 of the film, she doesn't speak, and I almost wondered if that was a purposeful choice because they didn't, maybe she wasn't that good of an actor. She couldn't speak. Then she does start speaking, not just in one language, but in two, and her performance actually improved. She gave a bilingual performance in which a 10-year-old could sometimes be a 10-year-old, but sometimes was the scariest person on screen. It was absolutely amazing. And so, yeah, Daphne Keane deserves some recognition. She won't get it, but she deserves it. And finally, I'm giving a personal award for Most Important Movie of the Year. A little different than Best Picture. It may not be the best made. It may not shine in every category, but it's the movie that we needed. And for those, I'm nominating The Post due to its look at the press and how important it is as a counter to the government. It was a wonderful look at what the job of the press should be and has stopped being in recent years, recent decades. Girls Trip, for being a film that brought African American women to the theaters in numbers we haven't seen. It was actually the 10th highest grossing movie of this summer. And because it gave African American women a film where they were represented and represented, how to put it, represented like anybody else would be. If this were a cast of all white women, it would work. Heck, if it were a cast of all white men, it would work. But no, they chose to make it a cast of African American women, and they didn't use stereotypes. They didn't, this wasn't a black film. It wasn't about black subject matter. It was just a comedy. And this is the direction we need to start moving. We need to stop looking at minorities as minorities and just part of the human race. That's exactly what Girls Trip did, and that's exactly why it was such an important movie. Next on the list is Get Out. Get Out is it's not the first time race has been looked at in a horror movie, but this is the first time that white liberals have been the focus of the horror. This is the first time that a black writer and director has shown the white majority in America, hey, this is a metaphor for how we see you. You are the horror in this film. And that makes it very, very important. It was a movie that used many of the many tropes that we've seen before, but to deliver a message like none we've ever seen before. And that's why I'm glad it got all the nominations it did, officially from the Academy. And yeah, so I put it on my list as one of the most important movies of the year. The fourth movie for most important is Call Me By Your Name, for the reasons I said earlier. It focuses on a gay romance, but it focuses on the romance, not the gay part, which is almost never done. I can't personally think of a film where it's been done before. I'm sure it has. I don't see every film that comes out, but for a film as widely released as it was, with as much attention as it got, it was very nice to see. It is very nice to see this romance between two young men treated just like any other romance would be in a film. It was cute. It was adorable. It was touching. It was moving. And it was just because it was a romance. So, yeah. Very important film for that reason. However, my most important film for the year is Wonder Woman. This is the year of the Me Too movement. This is the year women started coming forward and making men scared of the way they've been acting. And I like to think Wonder Woman had something to do with that. I like to think the character and the portrayal of Wonder Woman on screen showed women that they have power and they can make men scared, and they should be scared. Now, I think this movement would have happened with or without the Wonder Woman movie. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it was responsible. But it definitely showed an attitude that is changing in America. And I think it may have pushed it forward. I think it may have given some people courage that didn't have it before. I think it became a metaphor for women's power. I know how excited so many people were to see this film. And to go beyond that, when I'm thinking Greta Gerwig, when Gal Gadot was signing on for the sequel to Wonder Woman and heard about the Me Too movement going on and the Harvey Weinstein scandal and so on, she herself said that she would not do. She used her power to have the producer of the movie removed. And I'm sorry, for some reason I'm blanking on his name right now. I'll put it down beneath. I'll look it up and down here we'll put the name of the producer. But had him removed from the movie due to his history of sexual harassment. The actress had the producer removed from the film due to her newfound power. And that is why, not just for that, but for the it's been the year of the woman in many, many ways. And Wonder Woman is such fantastic representation of that. It's the movie we needed this year, and I'm calling it the most important film of the year. All right. Well, thank you for putting up with that for so long. I assure you most of my talks will not be anywhere near that long. For the most part, I'm going to be doing movie reviews on this channel. Sometimes I may take a look at specific movies from the past, dissect them, analyze them, but most of the time I'm going to be doing 5 to 10 minute movie reviews here. That's what you're going to be seeing. But for my first talk, I wanted to, introduce myself, and since it's Oscar season, do something a little bigger. Thank you for watching. My name is Shaun. This is Shaun's Reviews, and why develop your own taste when you can trust mine? Thank you very much, and see you next time.